Hi, you're listening to Book Chat with author Vivian E. Moore.
Like us on Facebook.
Are you ready?
Keep listening to our weekly episodes to find out more.
Hi, and welcome to Book Chat. I am your host, author Vivian E. Moore. Today I have online author Jesper Schmidt. And we're going to be talking about the mechanics of writing as well, his series. So it's called the Keystone Bone Trilogy. And I haven't had the opportunity to read it yet, but it sounds so interesting. I've got to download it. So is it on audiobook yet?
No, unfortunately not on audiobook, no.
Okay. Well, this is what I'm going to do. I just want to give them just a little bit more information, then I'm going to introduce you officially. So Jesper, along with writing, also has a YouTube channel called Am Writing Fantasy. So I'm going to introduce Jesper to you, and then we'll let him just give you a little bit more information about himself, and then we'll start talking about his writing career and also his YouTube channel. So Jesper, you have the floor.
All right. Thanks a lot. I appreciate having me on. That you're having me on here. So thanks for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I'm based in Denmark, so quite far away, and we had our fun trying to schedule this. This interview as well.
We did, but we worked it out finally. So I'm happy about that. I've been excited about talking with you, and I did check out your YouTube channel. And I mean, it's just so much going on and so much information that's out there. So I just had to get you on the show. So because I knew that you would be able to lend, a plentiful amount of information to listeners and aspiring authors that, probably at this point are pulling their hair out because they don't know which way to turn. And so you have the perfect informational tool out there to help them with this. So before we talk about that, let's talk about your trilogy, Keystone Bone Trilogy.
Right.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. So it's the trilogy is completed. It probably took me, I think, about 3 years to write it.
Wow.
It's funny when you start out. It's the first book always is the most challenging one. And, I think half the time out of those 3 years I spent just on the first book. I even had to rewrite half of it at some point as well before I sort of got my head around the need to plot it. Because the funny thing is that I've worked in project management for like several decades.
Uh-huh.
And I should sort of have known already that I should plan stuff, but
right.
for some reason when I started writing, I thought, well, that's not necessary. Yeah. You just start writing.
Right.
I figured out at least that process did not work for me. So
right.
So I sort of wrote myself into a corner with that book, and then I had to sit all and start over. So all in all, it took 1.5 years, and then I think book number 2 I did in maybe 1 year, and book number 3 in a bit more than 6 months or something like that. So it's sort of you get better as you go.
Well, you do.
I guess that applies to everything, right?
It does. I mean, it's a learning process. You learn along the way, especially with that first project that you start. You because I know I did with my first book. When I went back and read it, I was like, oh my God, it's like you learn so much to where when you write the next one, you improve upon it. So, I guess that was a great lesson to learn, because otherwise you would have never known, what to do to make it even better. So you could have written in any genre that you chose. So why did you choose fantasy?
Well, to me it was sort of a no-brainer, to be honest. I've always read fantasy. I've always enjoyed the fantasy genre, also when it comes to movies and stuff like that. So it was just there was nothing else I wanted to write except fantasy. So I guess I'm one of the lucky ones in that sense, that I just knew what I wanted to write right from the beginning.
Well, I mean, and that's great. You write what's in your heart. And because I'm a romance writer, but I love fantasy. I am so just huge on that. So I can't wait to read the Keystone Bone trilogy. Now, I wanted you to tell us exactly what this book is about.
Yeah, a lot of world building got into it. So basically, I created my own species for the book, and the main characters belongs to a species that I call Duians.
Okay.
I think if you wanted to compare them with something, they probably resemble elves somewhat.
Oh, okay.
But the difference with these guys is that. Elves love their forest, but these guys are completely symbiotic with the forest in the sense that if they leave the forest and go outside the forest, they will succumb to a disease that I call the field blight, which basically will kill them if they don't get back to the forest after a short while.
Okay.
And our main character is abandoned by her family when she's a child, and all of a sudden figures out that her family is actually still alive.
Okay.
But the only problem is that if she wants to save her sister, she has to go outside the forest, and on top of that, she's also pregnant. So
okay.
That's
a challenge.
A problem.
Yeah. Yeah, she has two lives to think about instead of one. So, with most writers, and typically male, they usually write about male characters. So how hard is it for you to write about the opposite sex?
I guess maybe I should have some profound answer about how I think about a million different things about how a female would look at things. But honestly, I don't. I mean, it's more like you sort of understand your character and what motivates them and what they want to do, and I don't think on a base level like that. I don't think women and men is that different.
Okay.
We all have certain drives and motivations, and obviously those sort of whatever motivates you could be different compared to, if you are male or female. But but I don't know. I don't think a ton about it in that way, and luckily enough, so far I have not received criticisms about how I don't understand women and whatnot.
Well, I wouldn't judge you on that because, I write about female and male characters all the time. And of course, I'm better at writing from a female perspective because I am female, and I'm sure you are as well because you're male,
Probably.
So, we speculate a lot, but, but when it comes... go ahead.
There's also a danger in overthinking it. To some extent, right?
Yeah, but I think just in general, people are people, and you don't have to tie a gender to it because I mean, I know we do think differently as male and female, but still, we have some common some common similarities that does make it possible to write about the different the opposite sex when it comes to characters and things of that nature. So what was your hardest scene to write in this trilogy? You're sort of we were just touching on the gender stuff there, right? I mean, there is some romance, not like you don't get any explicit stuff going on in the books, but there is like sort of the romance part of it, and which is not. That does not come as natural to me to write as for example, when they're fighting dragons or something. That's just right.
Stuff. That just flows out easily.
Right.
But sort of the romance part of it is probably the hardest stuff for me to write. But on the other hand, I do love to put it in there because I think with a good story, some romance does belong in there. So I do put it in, but. I'm probably not as adept to writing that part as I am writing about dragons and sword fights and stuff like that.
Well, but that's fine. I've read plenty of fantasy books that didn't have any romance in it. And I've read plenty sci-fi that doesn't have any romance in it. So, but still, that would be a draw for me to read a fantasy book that had relationships in it, between the opposite sex. So and yeah. I do like books that have that in there, but I have read plenty that doesn't. So what did you edit out of this book or these books?
Well, actually, I had a whole continent of the world, and I also had a character developed for it, and I had a whole storyline for him developed for it as well. And well, again, back to not planning ahead and not knowing what I was doing when I started out. I started writing with this character in the book, and I just, this book just morphed into a monster, which it was so big if I had to keep writing him as well. And I don't know, it would probably end up with a 300,000 word book or something, and I didn't want to do that either. So
right.
I basically cut him out, and I removed that whole continent from my map as well. So there was quite an amount of world building that went to waste there. But
wow.
On the other hand, it had to be done. So that's what happened.
Well, could you not have maybe put it in a different set of trilogies or something like that? Because I hate to lose vital information, especially if it's something that you've researched for a long time, and it takes a lot of time to make sure that that you add these into the story, and a lot of it is intricate. So do you think you could use it maybe for a later story?
Probably not, but what I did do was that I created I think it was 3-page long PDF file that I actually gave away for a while to people on Twitter as sort of an exclusive things, because you can't get that one anywhere else. But so I actually gave it away for a while. I don't really do that anymore, but for a while I did. So it got to be used for something at least. Right,
it didn't go to waste totally. So that was good. So I know I've read quite a few books, and I've seen quite a few movies where they put these little Easter eggs into the story that that you have to be savvy enough to find. So do you hide any secrets in your books that only a few people will find?
Well, I actually email out to my email list about it, but there is a few, let's say, probably not Easter eggs in that way, but there's a few things that you will notice once you, well, it sounds a bit cryptic, but once you hear some of the explanations that I emailed to people on my email list about sort of what I was going through at the time when I was writing the books, then you will start recognizing some of those things in the book. But if you don't know that, you probably wouldn't even notice it. So there is stuff like that, but not Easter egg from a story perspective as such. I try, some of the stuff is of course foreshadowing a bit of what is coming and those sort of things. But otherwise, there is not did you catch this one funny thing that I was hinting at? But maybe, who knows, maybe when you start writing even more different trilogies, especially in the future here, our planning is that we're going to write a lot of books, different trilogies in not this world that the Keystone Bone trilogy belongs to, but to a new world that we're building. And there, of course, you do get the ability to, across different trilogies, sort of give a wink to another trilogy set in the same world and stuff like that. So quite likely we will do that. But since this is sort of a contained standalone trilogy in a world that was only developed for this, I never did that, no.
Okay, all right. Which, I mean, that makes sense, and and again, I've read quite a few trilogies, and they start out as a trilogy, but then they'll start a different storyline that could possibly be a standalone, but you'll see reflections from one of those past books into the new story, and I like seeing that, because even though it's an entirely different story, still it's relatable. It's all relative, and I love that. Okay, so now that we've talked about your book, let's talk about your Am Writing Fantasy channel on YouTube. I want to talk about that because that's just loaded with information, and I'm sure that a lot of people will find it useful.
Yeah. I've been running that channel for a few years. The first most of the time up until recently, actually, up until New Year's, it was solely focusing on fantasy world building and all kinds of different aspects of fantasy world building. There is a lot of videos there on how to when it comes to different parts of world building. So sort of each video focuses on one particular element, and then it dives into that. And then there's also a ton of interviews with fantasy authors where we discuss world building and how they're going about something specific within world building. So yeah, there is a ton of video. I think there's like 100 videos on world building there, so there's more than enough to dive into. And but then during the past probably like 2 years, I have a business partner, another fantasy author that I work with, and we're building a world together and writing books together and that sort of thing. And when we came up to New Year's, we basically made a decision to transition the channel a bit, and that's where it got its new name, the one you mentioned now, and Writing Fantasy.
Right.
So it used to be called something else, but because now the focus of the channel now is solely, instead of focusing on world builders like I did before, now we both create videos, and those videos are directly focused towards fantasy authors.
Okay.
So it's not only about world building, but it's also with writing advice, it is publishing advice, it is marketing advice. So we try to cover sort of whatever we can think of that somebody writing fantasy would like to know. So now that's sort of the new focus we've had since New Year's.
Well, I think that is one of the most important things is, when you are a writer, when you do have a wealth of knowledge, within you, is to share that information with others who are starting out and who, they may not know where to start, especially if they want to write, in this genre of fantasy, because, it is something that's totally made up, but still, you have facts in there. And people will fact check you on just about anything, but I think it is so useful to give out these tips and to let them know how you need to not only word build, but also build on the schemes, build the scape, what's going on. And I think that's where a lot of writers get into trouble. Like you said, when you started with your first one, you wrote yourself into a corner. And so, but you figured a way to get yourself out of it. And I think for a lot of young writers, fresh writers, they have that desire, to write, to tell a story, but they don't exactly know how to go about it. So, that's why I said that your YouTube channel is so useful. And I'm glad that you branched away from just, from the fantasy and, and started talking about other ways to build your brand pretty much, because there's a lot involved with being an author, with being an author more than just writing, because you need to know how to market yourself and how to have email mailing list and things like that. So all of those things are quite useful, and it affords a lot of information for those who are out there looking for it. So and I'm glad that you list all of these things out there. And so, but before we leave today, I would like for you to, to give that URL, if you will, about it. But I have this question because, it just came to me. So how do you feel about this? You may be the best storyteller there ever was, but then you don't know how to write the story. How would you go about telling somebody to do this?
Yeah, so...
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I just...
No, that's okay, no worries. I'm sort of used to it after running a YouTube channel for so many years and interviewing a lot of people, so that's not a problem. No, I think that there's sort of two different aspects to your question in my mind, because one of them is, okay, so I have a story I want to tell and I don't know how to write it. That's one aspect. The other aspect is, but how do I get somebody to read it? Because, you sort of, I released a video actually just like, I think it's like a month ago now, where I sort of talked about 4 truths that every want-to-be author needs to hear. Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there. Because one thing is that, of course, if you want to, if you just have a story that you want to tell but you don't know how to write it, then I would start by, first of all, try to educate yourself on how stories are constructed. Okay. So even if you're not a plotter, but try to read some books about how to plot a story, watch some YouTube videos, basically educate yourself. Listen to some podcasts with authors talking about how to write books and stuff like that, so that you start educating yourself and getting the inputs. And then you will get a lot of inputs that you don't really feel that this is not something that works for me, and that's fine. Then you just ignore that, but take the stuff that you feel like this works for me, this I understand it, then start doing that. Right. And then just start writing. Because the more you write, the better you get. It's a muscle.
I agree. It is.
And the same thing happens with, when I go back to my book number 1 and read it today, I mean, it's an absolutely okay book, but there are so many things in that book that I would do differently today, and that's just the nature of it. Because with every book you write, the one you wrote before that, you will always find something that I could have done that better. Right. That's just a part of the game, and you just have to accept it.
It is, because I think that as writers, we are our biggest critics, when it comes to the stories that we design. And I agree with you totally on that, because I can look back on the books that I've written and was like, man, I wish I would have done this or said that, instead of this. But, it's just like your word building. Each time you write a story, you're making it better. You're improving your craft. And so I agree with you 100% about, continuing to write, because the more you write, the better you get. And that's just about with anything in life. The more you practice. My mother used to say practice makes perfect. And I believe, and I believe that. And I wanted to,
it is true.
Yeah. I wanted to, you had one thing on here about, author who wants to earn a living, and you said that 2% succeed. Why 2% succeed and 98% don't? So can you just touch on that just a little bit?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
So that was the video I was referring to before.
Okay.
That I released about a month ago, because basically to sort of make a long story short, I mean, I guess people can go and watch the video if they want the full story, but to make a short summary thing, I think it is so incredibly important that you need to have your expectations right when you go into writing. I mean, let's say first, if you want to write a book that is just for you, or so that your mother can read it, or your uncle or whatever, that's absolutely fine. Go for it, write it, even upload it to Amazon if you want. But then you're not going to make any money from it. So you just need to understand that going in. But if you're here, and that's sort of the premise or the assumption that I'm taking, is that you're here because you want to sell books and you want to earn a living from it, or at least money from it.
Right.
I think the reason why 98% of people fail, or 98% of want-to-be writers, is just because they have this romanticized idea about what it means to write books. They sort of think, okay, then I don't have to go to work anywhere, and I can sit at home and I just write some stuff, and then I'll upload it to Amazon, and then I'll earn a lot of money. But it doesn't work like that. It requires a lot of work, and as I said in that video, there is so many professions where you can earn your money so much easier than writing. So, and I think that if you sort of boil it down, 98% fail because they start writing and then they figure out, okay, this is a lot harder than I thought. Right. And I already uploaded 4 different books to Amazon, and I'm selling absolutely nothing. Right. So this is sort of, and I spent 4 years writing it, so I just wasted 4 years of my time. That's sort of the mentality. And then they gave up, and then they stopped. But if you look at some of the people who are actually earning a lot of money today, some of them didn't break through until their number 14 book. Right. That's some of the stuff that I'm saying in the video. You sort of need to embark on this journey knowing that I might have to write 20 or 30 books before I make a living. But I still go into it because I love to write and I love to tell stories, and that's why I do it. If that's not your underlying driver, then my advice in that video is, I better save you the headache. Just tell you stop now. Because
Right.
if you're only doing this for the money, don't do it.
Right, because I mean, it's something. Writing is something that is very passionate, and it's something that I mean, you have to have that creative gene for first and foremost, and I mean, you can't be under the misconception that that on your first try out that you're going to write a bestseller. I mean, it may have happened. To someone, I can't name anyone off the top of my head, but two, like you said, it's good to educate yourself, and because some of the most famous writers in the world, I mean, they had a very hard time getting their work published, and and they probably had a ton of books that didn't sell one copy. But just like you said, you can't give up. You got to keep doing it, especially if you're passionate about it and you're doing it because you have a love for writing and not because you just want to make money at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, as I said, if money is your driver, then go and do something else, because that's a lot. I mean, writing is a lot of work.
It is. It is.
And you need to understand that going in.
It really is.
But unfortunately, I think most people don't understand that, and that's why they start, and that's why they quit.
Right. But I feel like if you start something and you don't finish it, your heart really wasn't in the first place. It was just more or less a scheme, that you just, you had this idea and you just want to do something. But, I like I said, you have to have a passion about it. It's something that, is bone deep within you to do. And, if you are a true writer, it's something you can't let go of. You have to do it. You have to hone that craft and just keep pursuing it, if it's truly in you to do that. With Jesper, before I let you go, I want you to let people know where they can find your Am Writing Fantasy channel and any YouTube channel that you have out there about writing, and also where they can find your books.
All right, yeah. So Autumn and myself, so Autumn is my business partner, so we publish more than 20 books together. So we try to share a lot of info, and you can find all of that. If you just go to YouTube and search Am Writing Fantasy, so Am Writing Fantasy, then the channel will pop up. And actually, I'm not sure when this goes live, what we're recording here, but actually within the next 14 days, so that's sort of before the end of February, there will also be an Am Writing Fantasy podcast coming out.
Okay.
It's gonna contain the same information as the videos contains, but it'll be an audio-only version of the YouTube channel. So for those people who don't have the time, like me, to sit down and watch videos every week, you can just go into the podcast and then you can just listen. We release new videos every single Monday, and that's also going to be the schedule for the podcast. There will be a new episode every Monday there.
Okay, great.
So you can go there. Another place you can find us is at www.amwritingfantasy.com. So there you can also find us, and actually we do, if you go into the menu and go under courses, you can actually find a free writing course there, which is sort of a starter course for writing, and you can download that for free, video course.
All right. Well,
and then my own books is at jesperschmidt.com.
Okay.
So that's it, yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, that's a lot, and so you've covered a lot, and we talked about a lot today, and I am so glad we finally had the chance to sit down and have this chat, because I was so looking forward to talking with you, and it was so worth it. The chase was so worth it to finally be able to have this interview with you. I have totally enjoyed it, and I hope that in the future that we'll get to talk again about maybe a new project that you'll have going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I look forward to that, and I'll touch bases with you on Twitter or maybe some other medium to get in contact with you to stay on top of what you're doing, so we can talk again. So again, thank you so very much for giving me this opportunity to interview you, to talk about what you're doing, talk about your books, talk about your fantasy channel on YouTube, and all the wonderful things that you're doing that's helping fellow authors who need this information, and you unselfishly give it away. You make it available to them, to those who want it, to learn more and to know more, to educate themselves on what it means to be a writer, and then especially a fantasy writer, because I don't think that's one of the easiest genres to write, to be quite honest. Because you have to come up with a lot of things. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, yeah, but on the other hand, you sort of get to just make things up, so at least you don't have to explain the science anymore.
Right. But you have to keep up with the story that you're telling, and you're doing a trilogy, so, that's quite a bit. But still, I love it. I love it. And as soon as I can, I want to, your books, did I ask you if they were available on audio?
They're not available on audio, no.
They're not. Do you think
they... You can find them on Amazon and everywhere where books are sold, Kobo and everywhere.
Okay. All right. So do you think in the future they may be on audio? Because, I read all the time, but I listen a lot too, because it's just easier for me to listen to books than actually, read them sometimes because of the time. I don't have a lot of time to just actually sit down and read. But I do listen quite a bit. Do you think they eventually will be added to Audible or anything like that?
Well, I would say at least our future coming books here will probably be created in audio as well. For this Keystone Bone trilogy, maybe, but I think I would word it in the way that the production cost for audiobooks has to go down before they come out in audiobooks, because it's still too expensive compared to the probably sales revenue you can get from it. So right now I have no plans of doing so. Okay,
well that's fine. That means I'll just have to buy it and just read it the traditional way.
Book one is actually free, so if you go to my Twitter profile, the pinned tweet at the top of my profile, I have book one for free, so everybody can go and download book one for free if you want. Well,
good. I'm glad that I asked you about the audio. So now anybody who's listening know that they can get the first book for free. Again, Jesper, thank you so very much for granting me this interview, for taking time out of your busy schedule. And I know the hour is growing later where you are, so so I thank you for doing that for me. And I hope that you have a wonderful evening. And until the next time that we have a chance to talk, I wish you all the success in the world.
Thanks for having me, Vivian. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
All right, cheers.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.